Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Pugging journey to the plus 20, in which we are starting off with a high plus 15 Halls of Valor. And this really is turning into quite a journey. I'm loving doing these videos so far. And it's picking up a bit of traction, which is always nice to see. I would love for people to put some comments in with just regarding some feedback to the videos themselves. So I can get a better understanding of how to make the best content for you, as this really is the first time that I'm making these YouTube videos on here, so I am quite a noob with it. Whether that means you would like longer videos, shorter ones, a bit more focused on the action, or you want me to speak through these routes as well. We have looked at Halls of Valor in this case quite a bit. We've had this key quite a lot. And having it as a 15, there is a bit of comfort knowing that we've done it quite a bit before and it is possible on the monk. So we're going to jump in, and I do want to show off the first pool, and I do get a little bit wary of the first pool. We go big again because it's tyrannical, and we're used to going big on this pool. We try to save our lust so that we have that in the next one, and we come in and we take aggro. Now, shamefully, I do lose one or two mobs as we go in, but I try and group them up as fast as possible. And we actually get some insane healing numbers out here at this point. So I'm grabbing aggro, I'm trying to pull everything together. I notice that there's the thunder cooler away. I ring a piece stuff to get everything in, and we start kiting. Now, looking at my defensives, I have pretty much all of them up in this point. And for some reason, I am not popping them. I use my Celestial Brew, I use the rest, and it gets a bit scary. But luckily, the group that I'm playing with starts using their AoE stuns, their AoE CCs, and we're able to just about get this pull down. But even at this level, we're getting 50k healing per second in. It is quite nice. Now, unfortunately, we are still quite low item level, so we're suffering a bit with that. Whereas perhaps we could stand and tank this a bit, we are moving these around quite a bit. And like mentioned before, you want to move them anyway to avoid the frontals. You see those power attacks going up, those can simply be walked out. So we still have quite high stagger. We finish up on this Drake, and overall it's quite a nice pool, but I do think I saved my defensives just a bit too much, or even just panicked and didn't use them, was just focused on clearing my stagger at this point. I check for mana. Do we need it? They're about half, and they say nope, go ahead. All good. So I've commentated this fight a bit, but the main takeaway that I want to give is that if you're DPS or healer and you have some faith in your tank, which you should always be just moving to the area that the tank is looking at. I hear the horn go off, I look around, I see the Drakes on the first one. Now when you're tanking and you're the one moving the boss, for starters, always passively stay in the middle. That's just a really easy way to adapt which area you're going in, and I always like to move in after the first breath, so it's nice and consistent in that. So whenever I'm not damaging, I bring him back to the middle, and we continue on. The only problem you may have is you can get split up at this point, so the group can split. That can be an argument why in pugging you might want to just stay at one of those ends, probably the further end that's closest to the ads, just to help chain. But I see it in the middle, and you see the Evoker does go up, but as long as it's not the healer, it doesn't matter. You lose just a bit of DPS at this point. So we're safe. We keep going forwards. The damage output isn't too crazy. It's a bit more just focused around coordination on this boss and making sure the healer has everybody topped up for those horns. We're not in that one-shot territory yet, but it does appear that we are getting closer to it. I'm really excited to push through this one because we're getting closer to that plus 20 go. But just talking about the channel for a little bit as we have this play in the background. I'm really excited to keep this series going, and whether or not we're going to be able to get that plus 20 and how close we are to getting to that plus 20. But looking to the future, exciting to see what videos could be made in the future. I think it would be good doing one of these 0 to 20s videos again, or maybe an off-meta class, a ranged DPS. I have a fire mage that I'm looking that I think could be quite exciting. And as the community goes or grows through, and the channel grows, it would be really good to get some commentary keys of the audience. Of you guys, for you to be able to submit and watch through and see how we can improve on some of these keys together. And obviously not every one of those are going to be down to user error per se. Sometimes pug keys just don't go well, so it'd be really good to see that. And if you have interest in that, let me know in the comments just a video idea that I thought could be a bit of fun. Back to gameplay though, we have this big pack. It's quite a nice pack to pull. I always wait for the first ad to cast to group them together, and the main thing you need to kick is the Holy Radiance and the Etch. But as the levels go higher, you're going to want to interrupt everything. Now, the rest of this key is quite straightforward really, and I don't want to waste too much time on here because we walked through everything before. I just want to show you the end boss and how this gets a bit messy. Fortunately, we don't get any bugs on the one just before this, but what we do is we move the boss over to orange. And the idea behind this is we are dropping the spears out of the way so that when they shatter, we can get to the rune markings easily without having to dodge them too much. And it's really successful on the first one as we play it out, but it goes a bit scary on the second timing. So we bring the boss over and we get 2 nice swords drops. So we get one just right next to the boss here, which is quite straightforward. I like to move the boss just a bit so we're not getting too RNG'd by that, and we get our couple. Now, we know at this point the ad is going to spawn, and the DH does an excellent job of running out and starting damage on her. I get aggro, I taunt it, and I pull it out, and we kill it. You cannot let this ad cast, because although it doesn't look scary at first, it ramps very fast. Now, at this point, you're wanting to bring the boss into the middle of the room. That makes it just very easy for people to get across to the marks that they need to. So we're at a nice spot here. Everybody's able to get to their marks. We have a slightly late lust, I think, but we lust off the back of this and we blow our cooldowns and get some damage in. So really nice, good first round. Now what I'm thinking here is that we should have gone back to the orange marker, because we get the spears drop again. And it gets just incredibly messy and incredibly difficult. We already have 5 out at this point. We know the ad's going to spawn. We have 1, I believe the DH keeps over there and kicks the ad first, which is really, really handy. We put them out and deal with it. And we try and come back in with this, but there's so many of these spears that just gets crazy. I use Ring of Peace to interrupt that ad, and you'll see that people start dropping. It gets a bit scary here. I'm thinking, oh Christ, this is going to be very scary. I'm able to, though, get to my rune because we was in the center, and with a couple of us, we are able to finish off the boss. But I'm thinking, move back over to the side of the room, let those spears bait them out the way, and then do the boss a lot easier without having to dodge 2,000 different things. But overall, plus 15, really happy with that. Really good, solid progress from this. And that actually leaves us with our next key, which is a plus 16 no-cood. Kind of scary territory at this point, but also great. We haven't done a no-cood, we haven't looked through it before, so I'd love to actually run through this dungeon at the full pace, seeing all the mistakes that might happen, and the course, and just some tips that I can give with you. We get a really nice trinket with verse on it, a good upgrade to my puzzle box in there. I might just bind this to one of my key bindings, as I now have 2 on use trinkets, which can always be a bit annoying. But let's now move on and jump into the no-cood itself. So great, let's load in to this plus 16 no code, and I'm really excited that we actually have this key. It's nice to kind of go through a fresh dungeon and see the roots and what needs to be focused on, what needs to be kicked. And it's getting to that point where it's a little bit sketchy due to my item level. I think I may need to do some farming on this character to realistically get to a high enough item level to be a bit more comfortable. As well, my bags just seemed a bit bugged. I couldn't eat, couldn't drink, couldn't use my consumables. And I even restarted the game and it didn't work. So no too sure why it was doing that, but I wanted to get into the key anyway. So no kid itself. Pretty straightforward in terms of the dungeon. You can usually pull these, you know, follow just a regular route. You don't have to do anything too fancy. There's a couple of specific things that we want to do on certain bosses that we'll talk through in general, but it's nice to kind of get a fresh key that we haven't done on the channel before. I'm also wondering whether to record some higher level gameplay. I have some plus 20 keys on my Demon Hunter Vengeance, so that might be interesting to upload onto the channel too. Now we kind of discuss where we're going to go. And at first we was going to mention to go to the waterfall in the end, but I believe we go to the dragon instead. Oh no, we do end up going to the waterfall. I'm confusing my keys here. Yep, we go to the waterfall. Now, the reason why I plan to go this route is I know that first pack is a bit annoying. So I wanted to hit that pack by the waterfall with CDs. You can also go to the dragon and take on the first large roaming pack with a lust, just to make sure that you have lust for this boss, because this one is a bit tough, does require a few checks. So we drop down, I ping on the map. It's always nice to ping as a tank as to where you want to land, especially in these pugs. It really just helps with that organization. People are a bit slow, so I am wondering whether they couldn't get across, but eventually we managed to get everyone here and we go in. And because this pack's a bit scary, I'm happy just to pop my defensive cooldowns on it almost straight away. So I pop my shifting Nizu, and I'm trying to pick on a couple and CC as much as I can. Everything in this group can be stunned, apart from the main monsters or the named mobs. So you can see Zari has to be kicked in itself. Now, I believe I also mess up on here. You have the Storm Shield mobs just below. And I probably should have taken them because it's a tyrannical. They're quite mean on Fortified. But I end up messing my count at the very end and just have to pull one extra pack. But it's not too bad. So we go into the next one. I chuck down my statue to try and keep aggro. I am generally trying to stop the kicks on the named mobs, so Solago. I have my Ring of Peace to disrupt as many casts as I can do. We have our individual kicks, and we try and group this area down. It's not too scary. Fortified weeks, these pools are extremely scary. If this was unfortified, I'd perhaps go to the other side first to make it not as vicious. Also, we'd have the correct cooldowns. That's one thing I need to change about my UI. On the left-hand side, you see I track defensives of people, but perhaps putting a few offensive abilities on there would very much help. Now, these shades are annoying for just mounting up. Usually, you could fly between to get a bit of shield, but we just decided to run in here instead. So, Stormbolt, yep, we want to kick that, and the Tempest is really high priority. That can really just, if you leave that channeling, that's going to destroy your group just in general. So just be aware of those Tempests, have some sort of CC ready for it, and fill in your kicks whenever you can. And this group is pretty good at their kicks, actually. The damage is pretty good as well. So far, I'm feeling kind of promising about it. But let's see what happens when we get to the bosses, since it is a tyrannical week. So we opt just to run again, because of the annoying shades stopping us from getting mounted. Now, these two arc blades do hurt a little bit. I think I underestimate them a bit. With getting into these hierarchies as well, something that I don't know if I showed my talents, but I decided to talent a bit more defensively, basically as much as I could in terms of this, because my damage isn't going to matter as much during these pools. I just need to stay alive, especially with Tyrannical, and I think it's going to be a bit scary next week. Now here I make a massive blunder. I do not have the healer set to focus, which I definitely should have done, and I actually end up pulling the boss without checking the healer's mana, and that causes quite a lot of problems. And it just these mistakes happen. I would just recommend 100% keep an eye on that healer's mana. Make sure you are tracking it, set them to focus. It's one of the rare times I make these mistakes, but I got a bit of an earful afterwards. But it wasn't too bad. There's a bit of drama, but it wasn't too bad. So I'm unsure if I check it. I thought I did myself, but I clearly did not. I was checking the shades. I set focus, and you know what? That's not too bad. 3/4 mana. You know what? I'm not going to argue with that. That should be enough to heal this fight. You could argue that they deserve a bit more mana or need a bit more. I noticed I take an absolute hammering at the start, so I panic a little bit and I pad up. Now this boss essentially has or relies on your healer, and it's a bit tricky. It kind of tricks you. You see, we have those storm spheres around the boss itself. Now those storm spheres, I don't even know what they do when they get to the boss, but you can soak them, and when you soak them you get a debuff and a bit of periodic damage done to you. But they also increase the damage you deal and the healing you deal. So as a tank, you actually want to be the lowest priority in soaking these. And your highest priority is to actually go into your healer. Your healer should want 10 stacks at all times. And your DPS probably also wants as many stacks as possible. But as a healer, you will not be able to heal this fight if you do not soak them up. You see, our healer themselves is able to get some nice, some good amount of stacks in there. Nahuda does say that they are which is a bit scary at this point. We clear there, we have to take a bit of damage and we have to come back. So it's a bit of a tough fight at this point. I do believe it gets a bit close. So as long as the healer's on 10 stacks and everybody else, even as a DPS, go into 10 stacks. I probably got more than I should have, but I just didn't want them to go to the boss themselves. Now another important thing are a passive the boss gets, which makes their autos really hurt against the tank. So that wants to be dispelled or consumed in there. And also these electrical storms, they deal a lot of damage. That is the window in which the healer has to be pumping in. You want to make sure you have your defensives up for that, and you can see on the left we had Blur used, Sparkskin was used by the Druid, people are using it defensively. We also had a Reincarnate that came through. So overall, people were using their defensives effectively, and the healer is trying to keep topped up on there. I'd argue that the healer should even be running around and collecting just straight away as soon as he's on 10. And even these, I'm picking them up. I'm trying not to let them go to waste in here. And the healer does a really good job of actually keeping us up with that low mana. It is a tough fight in general, but we're able to do it. Even on these lightning strikes, we're wanting to just try and soak them up before they come in, before they get wasted. Need a Saturn 10. And I'm soaking way too many up as a tank. You're the least priority on these. Just be like kind of last resort. Spirit Link comes out and we kill it, and I have to apologize a little bit for pulling at not full mana. But it was done. He said 20%. I'd argue it's 80%. I was convinced that I had checked. I was still in the wrong. I should still wait till that mana's lifted up. So, we then go over to the dragon, and the big pool is that big pack in that roams around. That is kind of like the tough one here. But you get some fun time for the DPS to really pop off and do some good damage. There are just a couple of ads that you have to watch out for, need to be aware of, that you need to spot. I look for the pack that wanders the patrol. I ping on my map just to signify where we're landing, to try and help out. And I'm making sure the healer's landed, they're on full mana. And in here I row and pull. Now, you have the bird called the Duna, I believe, on here. There is a bird that you cannot get aggro of. And I believe we actually kill it without too much issues. But that will focus on someone in the party, and they have to either run or needs to either be CC'd. Now, a couple other mobs that you really need to watch out for. You have the Horn Sounder at the top left of my screen. They will do a rally cast, which buffs everything. That can't be kicked, but it can be stunned. So you really don't want to let that go off. Past this, however, we are going to just be clearing out all the trash here. Now, the Lance Master on my screen, the big ad, also has a frontal. You see the rally. I don't know if it goes off here. I could have paralyzed this. That was my bad there. We just have to make sure we use some defenses. But the Lance Master has a frontal on it. Try and focus that away from the melee DPS. Otherwise, they won't be too happy with you. Also, the longbows don't actually move much. So whenever you're killing them, you want to be trying to tank the mobs on top of those longbows. Unless it's sanguine. If it's sanguine, do not do that. We clear those up and we go to the next pack now. And we focus these down. I noticed the rally. I think we stop it. Yep, I stun it there and I make the kick and we're all good. The bird was going to go off, but it gets cycloned, I think. These should be the easier pulls in the dungeon. There's quite a lot of repeat trash as we go through it. But what is quite nice about it is you do get to blast really most of the way through. And you can do some spicy double pulls, but I honestly don't think it's, at this level, it's not worth it. As long as your damage is doing alright. We got the DH, who is pumping out damage. So he's doing really, really well. We move on to the next pack. Now, I am playing a slightly new build, as I said, a bit more defensive. All that I need to do, or I have spec'd in, is my blackout kick. I have to use that before my bruise, and if I do that, then my blackout kick before my keg. And if I do that, I get extra time off my bruise or self-healing. So, you know, prioritizing defensives is absolutely fine, and I would recommend it at the beginning. You may see builds online that do not do that. They focus more on offense because they're slightly more optimal. So it's good to kind of figure out what your talents do, especially with them being so many, and just learning how to adapt. So we have Rally. You notice the bird is going out onto my shaman, onto my boomy, and I noticed that probably a little bit too late. So I just ring appease him so he can stand in there. Decides not to, but that's not the point. So that is the bird that needs to be pushed back, because that will really hurt, especially on fortified keys. Does a lot of damage. Can't be taunted. And we clean up here, ready for the boss. And you notice we still have 2 minutes on our lust at this point. So we don't have it straight away for the boss. That is why I wanted to go to the electrical storm first. But again, vice versa, I still think you can come here and lust at that first pack. As long as you have lust to that electrical storm. That's the main thing. So have a drink. Okay, what do you need to focus on here? These saboteurs that run through. They are the main thing that needs to die. Preferably a stun under the boss, ring a piece, something keeping them inside the boss so that they can be cleaved down. Now, preferably your healer will be using those ballistas behind, those dragon killer lards, to shoot at the boss. Those ads try to stop you from using the ballistas, something to be aware of. And you want to make sure you can kill them so you can cast. You also want to use those ballistas as soon as you can. The reason is there's actually a timer, and the next ad waits on after you use the ballista. And the ballista does 5% of its health. So the more you get in, the more damage that you're doing. 5% is a lot. And this healer decides to wait for the eruption cast. But if you do it before, you actually cancel one of the regular casts that the mob does. So you save yourself some damage in there, which can be really, really helpful, saving any damage that you can. Now, as a tank, I actually try and move the boss towards that ballista. The reason so is because the healer's running up there. Especially if you're ranged, you want to make sure that you're still in range to be healed. If you look, there's no way that this Druid or Ellie Shaman can be healed from where they are. So they are completely by themselves, and this healer's having to run back and get in heals after they shoot the ballista. So as a DPS, you always want to be moving towards that Lancer side, because you're just making it much harder for your healer, you're making it much scary. But the group does a good job of focusing the ad down and killing it. If we were shooting the Lancers straight away, we may have been able to get in another one for free and another 5%, which would have been good. But we could have cancelled that cast for sure. And the boss itself goes down. One of the easier bosses in the dungeon. Not too complicated. So, we fly over now to the area of the souls. This next zone, it's radical. It's alright. Not fortified. It can be rough. There are definitely some pools in there that you do not want to do. My dragon flying isn't too great at this point. I don't know whether I was distracted or what. I might have had the wife debuff whilst I was sorting this out. But we come in on the right hand side and we go straight into some pools. There we go, and we land here. Now the entire group lands. I know this manner. And we pull in, and I try to grab those birds with this pack. I just miss them. But I think I may get them on the way back around. You just want to try and avoid the swirlies. The birds will do a big frontal. They can be stunned, but usually it's not too bad just to walk out. You want to make sure the volleys are interrupted, because they do a lot of damage. And I decide to chain the pack here to try and save some time. The only thing that's really important is that the Beast Cooler is kicked, because it just summons ads. And the wolves that get summoned, they drop Shades, they drop Sanguine, they Boaster, and about 3 wolves spawn. So it's really, really want to stop that. And we finish off the pack. Now only do this if you're feeling comfortable. You'll see that that goes off, right? So these 3 wolves spawn. It's a bit awkward getting aggro, but they will all drop Shades. And it's just unnecessary. If you can get the kick or a stun, 100% proud. I know it's just the birds and I really want them. So I pull them in. Unfortunately, they get slightly stuck in the air. And we're doing a bit of running round to dodge the frontals. On a Fortified, I'd recommend pulling these by themselves, but if you can think you can handle a double pull, by means do it. You'll save yourself a nice chunk of time in here. Moving out of the way last second to try and get the cast to overlap, and we move into the next pack. Alright. We get some stuns up at the top. Everything can be stunned, I believe. I lose a little aggro, but I'm able to pick it up much better than where I was before. And probably too many casts go off at this point. With shamans, I believe they have a lower kick timer. I know they used to. You probably want to be having much more kicks or much more on it. It's just something, not something you'd get away with in those higher keys. And we move on to the next pack. So we're keeping our pace. We want to keep moving from pack to pack. I'm constantly keeping an eye out on the healer's mana. Now the Mystic casts Swift Wind here. And that is a ability that grants haste to everybody around him. Not something that you want kicked. It's a priority for it, 100%. But as you're moving through these packs, I know this isn't too bad of a pack, so you want to be conscious of your cooldowns. I know the next one has quite a lot of cast and does quite a lot of damage. Now you may be thinking, why are we pulling everything, or feels like everything at this point? Why is everything coming in? Why are we pulling so much? And the reason so is because, I'm sure many of you have already seen this, but essentially we are going to do a skip in the last section. Oh, and it gets spicy here. We get a bum pull, someone backs into another thing, so we decide, okay, we're going to do a double pull here, and we're going to have to throw down some defensives. And I hit my fortifying brew, my Nizao. I believe we drop darkness, and we try and get this a bit more under control. I bring a piece to keep back, and this is now turned into quite a scary pool. I do notice there is the Corruptor that's just free casting below, so I opt to row through everything, as I wanted to make sure that was going to die. I would definitely not recommend doing this pool though. But we're able to live. We drop our Celestial. We're able to purify a lot of damage, and overall we are able to survive it. And it did actually save a considerable amount of time. I look at the healer's mana. I think they want to go, so we keep it going. I know you get a bit of RP time during the boss to be able to drink. I'm looking for the kicks, how I can help out. And I'm just rotating around. Nothing too fancy at this point. Just your normal pack as we progress through this. Okay. So here, I make a slight mistake. This is just in terms of percentage, but my recommendation is you can come to this pack and clean it up. And this is the last one you need to be able to actually start RP with the boss. So you can pull this pack, you can get someone else to then go do the RP next to it, and you can continue pulling. I just messed up my count earlier, so I have to pull one more pack than I need to. Those two elementals that I pointed out I should have pulled is what causes this. But they're really scary and fortified, so I wasn't too sure about them. Looking back, I definitely could have done that. I just help out the dude who runs out as soon as I do that. And we're on another beast cooler. Same thing as before. We just want to make sure it gets kicked. Now, I think I'm clever, and I run back, and I decide to start the RP. And you see, it's been started. Save some time. Usually, we'd be able to go in after this. But with the last pack giving, I think, 6% in this dungeon. And you can always check MDC. I think I check it halfway through it. because I have my route already planned out. And I think I pull it up because I think it's 6%. I put up my MDT, I check the last, and I see, yep, 6% on that last pack. We're going to need one more. And people automatically are going to the boss. So I just had to wake some people up. And I want to make sure that these are pulled back because there is a patrol that comes nearby. Not the worst amount. Not terrible, but not great at the same time. There's another beast cooler in here. You're wanting to make sure, again, like before, that they do not spawn the wolves. So if you're ever needing to make up percent, this pack isn't too bad as long as you pull it away from the patrol. And we just touch of death to try and kill it a little bit faster than we would say. Now we asked if we want to bloodlust on this, and honestly, having bloodlust for the last boss would be nice. But looking at the timer, I know that if we was to wipe on the last boss or on this boss, or something went wrong, we'd still have another bloodlust available for the next boss. We have 10 minutes till the next one, so this is basically, we can use it. If everything goes fine, that's okay. If not, don't worry about it. And in here, I struggle at first with this. I'm used to the jumps as a demon hunter for this. But in the end, it turns out it's all right. It's not too bad. I'm just kiting the bots to the next spirit leap, trying to get them in as fast as I can. Brutalize is the big damage that you're wanting to avoid or mitigate. So whenever Maruk does that, be aware. And I'm actually pulling to that boss and making sure I am taunting the other one over. Now, the other mechanic that you want here is called Swift Wind. That is the tornado shot. Now, ideally, in an ideal world, melee will stack up and range will stack up, or everybody will stack up. And if you sit on top of each other and don't move, you actually can just almost avoid the mechanic altogether. In this, I believe me and the other melee, we decide to sit on top of each other, and the range do it at the top left. And that means that it is so much more less chaotic. You have much less chance of hitting each other with each other's tornadoes. People would generally do that at the higher IO. But it's one of those things you either want to all stack as best as you can, or you just want to try and survive and not do it. So just be aware of that. This is pretty chill as long as you get a range to kick the rappel, or you are on it fast. And the rest of the fight isn't too bad. But that tornado shot is really dangerous. Really dangerous. Brutalize comes in, we use our defensives, we know it's going to hurt. And we finish off, and I think I touch of death. Right, here's the skip. Kind of straightforward, and it's not too bad in the end. I get stuck in combat in a bit, but what we're doing is we fly across this canyon, and I'm sure you've seen it, but essentially we save ourselves time by not having to go through the front door. We are going through the back door and hitting this mountain range just up here. The DH goes up in another direction, and he messes up the skip. It ends up wasting some time, and I could have cleared trash then, but I thought he may be able to recover it, and he ends up having to go through the front, which wastes quite a bit of time. But instead of waiting for him here and just sat around, I thought we still have some DPS with us. Our best DPS is in there, but let's just kill some trash while we're waiting. Let's do that. So that's what we do. We keep the pool going and basically hope that the DH can kind of figure out what he's doing. I suppose this is on me somewhat. What I could have done is said, hey everyone, follow me, we're doing the skip. But it's one of those things where usually people know it. So you don't have too much of a problem with people copying it or going there, but you just sometimes forget that people may not have experienced or done the skip before. So I definitely could have told them to follow me and to keep track of where I was. Apart from that, the Demon Hunter is making his way over. So this pack just takes a little bit more time, but time's on our side. It's on the clock. We're pretty good at this point. 11 minutes left of the thing. I'm just hoping that the DH knows how to sneak through at this point, because otherwise we're going to have to backtrack and kill quite a lot more. You can definitely see the damage is a bit of an issue without him, but I'm keeping an eye out to see which ways he is going at this point. And just hope that it's okay. I believe I touch of death just to hurry this up, and I believe he's just waiting for the pack, the patrol, to navigate. So I see him coming through the front. I look up and notice him, and he does seem slightly confused as to where to go. So I just walk up and show what skip you can do through the front, just to show him that it is safe. And he is able to come through. And I was scared that he would pull on the left there, but it's okay. Now, on this, I tell them what one I'm going to kick, and maybe I should have given more time to let other people know what to kick as well. But in the phase 2 of these, all the ads will spawn, and they need to be kicked. Essentially, oh wait, this hurts. This really, really hurts. I realized very quickly that actually I need to be on top of my defenses for those abilities. Just something to definitely be aware of. Now, a couple things. Iron Spear, I tank him next to the rock because you can run the spear behind the rock, and therefore you are safe from the charge itself. So you see on the next one that comes through, I believe it comes through, people will either run next to it or behind, hopefully behind it. And you shouldn't have too much issue with dodging that then. It's the same for phase 1 and 2. On 60%, however, oh, you see the spear now, just as the DH doesn't do it. In the ads phase 2 though, these ads need to be kicked and brought to the middle. If you're a bit worried about it, the safest thing to do is just to CC a couple of them. So on the right hand side, I believe the DH imprisons. I wait for them to start casting, I make a kick, and we pull everything to the middle again. And from here, we have AoE stuns that we're able to successfully do. And I believe I bring a piece to break one up, and we can kill off our last one. It's going to do some damage to us because of it, but that's the safer way to do it. If you have a Death Knight, obviously easier to pull people in. If you have a Vengeance DH, being able to silence 2 and drag him in is a lot easier. This is a bit more dangerous on pugs. We keep it going where we are. We try and tank up. I'm dodging the swirlies as best as I can. And this mechanic can be done the same, where you can run behind the rock, so you're safe from the charge, and he doesn't go as far then. So definitely an option in there. The healer dispelling, the tank debuff, it really, really hurts, so that needs to be done as soon as possible. So now I move us towards the rock in the little space that we have. So I know that the next charge, we can play it safe and just do it into the rock itself. Now in the higher keys on Tyrannical, whoever has this mark on them needs to use a defensive something. If you do not, you will just die. It's as simple as that. So be aware of that. That is not something that you want to happen. You will get one shot if you do not use the defensive. And you're obviously helping your healer out lots. I noticed the space getting a bit awkward, so I decide to bring the mob back to the rock, because we have a bit of space there. A bit more space to work with in here, and this room can quickly run out of space. We got a bit of a close call to thundering. Here you will see we get a nice spirit link drop down, and he hits the boulder there. 10% left, 6 minutes left. Almost on our lust, and this is what I meant. If we could have used our lust on this boss and not use it on the last one, but if we wiped once, we'd still have another go at this with lust. Although it would be tight, but there we go. And here, fantastic Plux, 16 key in the bag. We are close to getting towards that plus 20. Really solid performance all the way through. 5.5 or 5 minutes 50 seconds left on the timer. We can definitely keep it pushing, keep going higher. Unlucky for me, no drops. No IM level improvement. It hasn't been great, but this will be really nice for the weekly vote itself. So really happy with it. Unfortunately, we get hit with a 17 ruby life pools, and I am scared of the second and the third boss, and being able to really take that damage is going to be really scary. We'll see whether we can do it. But thank you for watching. Thank you for the views. Thank you for anybody who has commented and given some feedback. I hope you've enjoyed this session, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.